A few months ago, Super Mario Bros. Wonder finally released, and it received glowing reviews. The game has already cemented itself as a modern classic, and finally made 2D Mario interesting again, which it hasn't been for almost 20 years. The game is a masterpiece, and an amazing addition to the Switch library, but the game isn't perfect. There are a few things that could have been improved on to make this game even better than it already is, and that is what we are going to discuss today. My main issue with Super Mario Bros. Wonder is the bosses, or rather the lack of interesting bosses. Because of the 6 worlds, excluding the Bowser Island at the end, there are only 4 worlds that have a boss fight, and they are all just you fighting Bowser Jr. I really don't understand what they were thinking. People have complained that the Koopalings are generic, and I do agree with that, but fighting the same boss in every world is beyond boring. Bowser Jr. does get a Wonder Flower in every boss fight, which makes the boss fight themselves vary, but all the boss fights look and feel the same way. And that's not even mentioning that a third of the worlds don't even have a boss fight, and the ending of the bossless worlds are extremely anticlimactic. They essentially just give you the Royal Seed without doing anything. I will though say that I liked the final boss a lot, and it was a lot more interesting than all the Bowser Jr. fights that you had to fight before. In Super Mario Bros. Wonder, there are a total of 4 power-ups. The Fire one, the Bubble one, the Drill one, and the Elephant one. And in my opinion, that is too few power-ups. I get that the Wonder Flowers make it so that you might not need as many power-ups as usual, since they often give you new abilities. But I still think that adding maybe 2 more power-ups would give the game a lot more variety, and would make it even more wonderful to play. I think the addition of the badge system is fantastic, and I'm so happy that they added it into the game. But in my opinion, it isn't perfect. I personally think that the badges are very unbalanced, and I at least rarely switched my badge. The first badge that you got was the Glide Cap, and I mostly only used that, until I got the boosted spin yaw, and then I just used that one. The other badges are cool, but most of them are only useful in specific scenarios, like the Grappling Vine or the boosted wall jump. And there are very few levels where you can specifically utilize these badges. And that's not even mentioning the blue badges, which are very boring to use, since they don't give you any upgraded abilities, just stuff like coin boosters or starting you off with a mushroom and so on. I think they should have at least let us have 2 badges on at the same time, 1 orange and 1 blue, since my guess is that barely anyone used the blue badges, when you're only able to have 1 badge. I understand that having 2 of the orange action badges could be a little bit overpowered, but that is something that you maybe could have unlocked after completing the main game, so we have more of a reason to try and use all the different badges. Super Mario Bros. Wonder isn't that difficult, which is fine. I get that you want to make it accessible for younger players, but my problem is that even the stages marked with 5 stars in difficulty aren't that difficult, and there is not much challenge in the main game for Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Towards the end of the end game, the stages get more difficult, but I would like it if they would have sprinkled out some more difficult levels throughout the worlds. That could maybe have been optional, so that the people that want more difficulty can play them, and the less experienced players could just skip them. The difficulty is okay, but I would have really liked to have some more difficult stages in the game. Now don't get me wrong, Mario games don't need a story. Very few Mario games have got a concrete story, which isn't a problem, since the main focus is the platforming, which is fantastic in this game. But couldn't we have gotten at least a little bit more than Bowser is wanting to take over the world? Like give him some motivation for why he's doing it. It doesn't need to be an Oscar-worthy script, just some reasoning behind his actions. I at least think that that would make the game a lot more engaging. In conclusion, Super Mario Bros. Wonder has got a few flaws that affect the game, but apart from the boss fights, these complaints are only nitpicks of what is otherwise a brilliant game. I had low expectations going into this game, after all the mediocre new Super Mario Bros. Games, but this game is just so much better than those games. And if you haven't played this game yet, then I really suggest that you give it a try.